Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. It seems that I think everyone is back, and I think the breakout room kicks you back anyway. So whether you press the button or not, you should be in the right room now. Maybe as an introduction, just before we kickstart the day, this morning earlier I had a Zoom call with a gentleman in PE. He's been a pastor for 17 years, and he's come across Valcare and asked a few questions on what we do, etc., etc. And we had a bit of a conversation of him trying to start up something similar in PE and what the first steps are, etc., etc. What was amazing for me to be able to share with him is that the network, pretty much what we're doing currently, not anything else, not funding, not coordinated efforts, not anything apart from just being there for each other and having this network of support and reaching out to each other. It's just so critical and just such a privilege. And I really want to thank you guys for that, for the fact that we do have the ability to reach out to each other and be there for each other. And one word that I'd actually like to highlight on that is the word vulnerability. And even in our breakout room now, we had the conversation around being vulnerable and being able to share that, it's not always going well. It's not always going great with us. I remember I was in a similar Zoom group a couple of weeks ago, and everybody was just telling everyone how they're changing the world during COVID and how they're more efficient and how everything is going great, and everybody was so happy. I think some of you were actually on that call. I just said, I'm not there. I'm absolutely not there. I've been having a tough time in terms of the amount of work that we need to get through. And it's just been quite overwhelming at some stages. And I just want to open up have that open conversation with us today on this call, that you're welcome to be vulnerable today. And please do not feel that you need to impress anybody, especially not anybody in the Valcare team. But please feel okay to be vulnerable. That's why we are here. I know this is very artificial and so strange. So even if I reach out and sort of touch you, it's also quite weird. So I know that's not exactly the right thing. But please know that we are here and we need to be vulnerable and we need to leverage the privilege of having this network. I also would like to encourage you guys to find time to rest. I mentioned in our group now that I think the one thing that, let's say, helped me to stand or got me through it is to have a team that's been side by side with me going forward, but also having a very strong realization that we need to find time to rest. And I shared with them that, in scriptures and everywhere where Jesus talks to the people that he's serving or he's ministering to, he always tells them to sit. When he's feeding 5,000, he tells them to sit. When he's teaching in the synagogues, he's telling them to sit. And that's got a lot to do with the mechanism of rest and being in a place of rest to be receptive to various other gifts. So I want to encourage you guys. I know that you feel that you've been at home for maybe 4 or 5 months and you've actually had a lot of time to rest, but I promise you, from an emotional and even maybe in a spiritual sense, you could possibly be tired. So I want to encourage you guys to try and carve out some time for leave. I've booked my leave for September. So unless Valcare burns down, I don't want Brendan to phone me. Luckily, I think we'll be covered. I think Ronan is our fire marshal. So between her and Liesel, we'll be okay. But I want to encourage you guys to take a rest. Find time to do that. And also within your teams, the people that's part of your teams, make sure that people take leave and go away with their families and spend time alone. Awesome. That's a bit of an introduction. I hope that you guys are excited about today. We want to almost, when we spoke about the session, we spoke about having it as a bit of a bonfire or a campfire type discussion. So just to be able to share a bit of the things that's worked well. I hope there'll be no ghost stories. So that might make things a bit interesting throughout the day. But yeah, please enjoy the sessions and also the breakout rooms. Please feel safe to feel vulnerable within those groups. And we've got 6 really keen, awesome, amazing members that want to share their stories with us. So they'll each have 10 minutes to share a bit. And then we will discuss a bit of that within the breakout rooms. And then we'll come back and give a bit of feedback on that. So firstly, I'd like to really want to thank you. We'll probably do a bit of thank yous at the end, but I want to thank every one of the member organizations that's willing to share with us today. Thank you for preparing. Thank you for feeling a strange amount of anxiety right now. Please do not. You will all be safe and and comfortable, I hope. I'd first like to introduce the Franschhoek Academy Learning Academy, Jeremy Davids. So Jeremy, you can take it away. Sorry, Jeremy, you're still on mute.
Thank you very much, Ivan. Good morning, everybody. Goeiemorgen aan allemaal. It is wonderful to see you all, although it is through a screen of a computer. You know, that is in a sense, like Ivan said, for me, really a very weird thing, the fact that we have to now talk through, you know, a computer. But anyway, nevertheless, I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with you some of the work that we are doing here in Franschhoek and how we've sort of, you know, adapted around COVID and what we're doing and what we're doing now before COVID, you know, and after COVID, of course. But for us, and if I say us, it's the Franschhoek Hospitality Academy and Learning Center. I know we've always been extremely positive about our work, and not only because we know that we are making you know, a difference in the lives of young people, and we can literally see the change that we make every single day in these young people's lives. But also we know that we contribute significantly towards brand Franschhoek and where Franschhoek is going to, you know, being the food and wine capital of South Africa. So I just quickly will, just very quickly share a couple of things about our organization, so that everybody's sort of on one page of who we are, where we are, and what we do. And then I'll get to how we are now, you know, dealing with COVID and all the things that we've put in place, and how we're operating currently. I'll just share a screen with you. It's a sort of presentation of what I prepared, and then I'll sort of talk us through for the next sort of 8 minutes on the different slides. So I'll just share my screen with you quickly. I hope you can all see my screen.
Yep, we can see it, no problem.
Thank you very much. So we started Franschhoek Hospitality Academy and Learning Center in 2000 and we started in 2018, but it was set up in 2017. And basically the need was to train or upskill young people in the Franschhoek Valley who wants to take up a career in hospitality. Franschhoek being, you know, the food and wine capital of South Africa, has always had fantastic wineries and fantastic restaurants. But shockingly, we found out that a lot of the people that works in our establishments were not local, and they came from all over the country, which is not a bad thing. It's just that we felt that why does our young people that live in Franschhoek don't want to, you know, see all this incredible opportunity that lies right at their doorstep. So we started the Hospitality, you know, Academy as a skills development and training program where we said we're going to train at a particular time 20 students over a year course to uptake, you know, a sort of career in the hospitality industry. So that for us was a way of assisting, of course, our country in the unemployment thing, to alleviate unemployment. That was also a way of getting skilled young people into our industry, because we felt that as long as we can always give young people, of course, a skill and hope there will be purpose and they will be able to make, you know, a living for themselves and of course then for their families. But also we always so knew that Franschhoek will only stay at the top of its game in the hospitality if it keeps on making sure that we treat our guests well and give them excellent service. And how we do that is to make sure that our staff are well trained, and that our staff knows what they're doing, and they have a love for the establishment that they're working for, and they of course have a love for Franschhoek. So we created this, this year-long study opportunity where there was 8 months in the classroom, and then after 8 months in the classroom there would be a 4-month internship, and where the student would, of course, show off their skills in the form of internship in an establishment in Franschhoek, and then hopefully thereafter will have a full-time job. How do we get these students? There's a vigorous application, process. We go out to the high schools here in France. We go talk to schools. Then there is an application form. They apply, and then there's an interview, and then we shortlist 20 students that would study with us. For us, it was very, very, right from the beginning, we made it clear that these young people that we take in, it was not necessarily all about, their academic skills, but it was more about their personality, and it was more about their attitude, and it was more about, do they really love the valley, and do they want to give back also to the valley? So a lot of our program is not just a hard, the sort of, I could say, hardcore hospitality areas in terms of your housekeeping, your cooking, your front office, your food and beverage service standards. It's also a lot of our training is based on life skills. It's a lot of values training. It's a lot about working with the individual and changing sort of the young person's life. A lot of them, of course, comes from very, very, impoverished backgrounds. And when they come to us, they would, for instance, a very simple thing that we would think is at the order of the day, like, for instance, greeting another human being, for them that is not necessary. So you really start right at the beginning, where you have to, sort of teach these 18-year-old and older young people, which is, for me, was bizarre in the beginning, just how to greet a person. And so that is really where we start. And we sort of had walk a journey with this young person, how to talk to people, how to greet people, how to engage with people. And then working really hard on the presentation of the person, and of course leading up to the specialized areas in the hospitality industry. So it has been quite...
Sorry, Jeremy, I don't mean to interject. You just have 3 minutes left. I just want to make sure that you get through all your slides, so we can just respect the time, please.
Okay, thank you for that, Ivan. I'll quickly go to the sort of core of the presentation. That is our team. We've got a wonderful team of student support, but also lecturers that are working very hard with our students on a daily basis. I'll just get to this slide quickly. That is what we offer. That was our courses before COVID-19. Front office and wine service, barista training, health and safety, basic cooking, food and beverage service standards, a lot of life skills, as you can see. To sort of have a rounded individual, so that person can really stand a good chance to have a job after he has completed the studies with us. That was post, pre-COVID. Now, post-COVID, how are we doing things now? We had to really change a lot of our curriculum. Not only are we now teaching, in 2 groups, we had to split the class up in half because of the social distancing and all of that. But of course, now we need to repeat lessons, which is very exhausting, but we've got a very energetic team that really loves our students, so we don't really mind that. But if we look at this slide, for instance, we incorporated a lot of new courses now. There's a lot of emphasis on financial literacy, making sure that the student can come up with a personal budget, that they can learn how to bank, so that they know what is tax, what is debt, and all of that. We also have a gardening program that we're going to start. We're going to teach the students how to grow their own vegetables, how to plant their own herbs, so that they can self-sustain themselves at home. A lot of stress management with our counselors, so that they can learn how to deal with stress and trauma and so on. So that is what we've incorporated into the program. We will focus a lot on, of course, CV writing and interviewing skills, because they need to know how to present themselves. Also, we've just started again with our evening courses. We've got evening courses for the public. This is now for any person who wants to upskill themselves besides our students. We started off with a couple of workshops around, talking to people about what it meant when they were retrenched, what it meant when they were laid off. We created a very safe space where people could talk and engage with each other, and how we can learn from each other to sort of now start up small little businesses here in France and so on. But we will have a cooking course, we'll have a barista training course again, and a wine course for people, for any person in the public. We also had a very successful CV writing workshop for the public here in France 2 weeks ago. We've had people, and we're going to do it again because people are now, suddenly a lot of people need to seek for employment again. So they need to know how to write a beautiful CV, come up with a beautiful CV. So we are very, very happy that we could also, render these services to the broader public here in Franschhoek. Just want to get to that. Of course, fundraising is an enormous challenge for us. We have to continuously raise funds. COVID-19, of course, had a huge impact on our fundraising, but we are working really, really hard. We have a lot of smaller fundraising initiatives that is online that we need to do. And so far, the Franschhoek public and the Franschhoek community has been really, really, grateful, supportive towards us. That is just a slide about the journey of our students' journey. We also have a very wonderful, good partnership with the ITM College in Austria, where we send over 2 students every single year to go study in Austria, in Europe. It's a relationship we've got with the ITM College, and this year we will send another 2 students. So this is our 3rd year for the Hospitality Academy. We already have 4 over there, so we also create that opportunity for our students to go to take up a 2-year study opportunity in Europe. So we are delighted that we could do that again. At the moment, our curriculum, of course, like I said, had to change, but also the calendar, we're now going to teach until deep into December, which is going to be quite weird. And then the students' internship starts in January next year. Hopefully the industry have sort of recovered and they could, take up our students. But at the moment, it's really a whole lot about survival and teaching them that they should not only see themselves in an establishment, they could also see themselves taking up a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities, and which is already happening with our class. So that is what we're doing at the moment. I don't know how I am for time, Ivan, but thank you so much.
You are slightly over, Jeremy. Apologies for having to cut you off. We're just trying to respect the time. Thank you so much for sharing. It seems fascinating. I'm trying to read all the slides in between, so we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, let's keep it going. Next up, we've got Nicole Truscott from Eurex. So, Jeremy, if you can stop screen share, then we can, if we have a presentation from Nicole, you can just start sharing that. So, welcome, Nicole.
Good morning. The extreme extrovert in me wants to jump out and give you all a hug, but now I can't. It's lovely to see you all, and it's such a privilege just to share a little bit of our journey and just what the Lord has done. Even before I share my screen, Tasha and I, my colleague who's also joining us from Stellenbosch, have just been speaking recently just about how safe and really loved we feel being part of the Valcare network. Both of us haven't in our careers experienced being part of a network like this before. So I think just as a little note on the side, we just want to say thank you. I don't think we've ever needed it this much as during COVID. So it's really an honor to speak with you guys today. My name is Nicole Truscott. I'm a community worker and project manager in Bokweni. And I'm quickly going to share my screen with you guys, and then we'll jump into the presentation. There we go. Okay, I'm putting my timer on. So we work for the Eurex Foundation, and we just like to share a bit of the creativity that's been going on our side. So the Eurex Foundation is an organization that drives the vision of healthy hearing for everyone, everywhere. Our heart is really to create affordable access to hearing healthcare by utilizing world-first smartphone-based healthcare technology that is developed by the Eurex Group. Now that's a mouthful. But what we basically do is we screen children's hearing with a smartphone that's been specifically calibrated so that non-professionals like ourselves can use them. And how we do that is through the Ears and Eyes for Education project. So we provide free vision and hearing screenings for children between the ages of 4 and 7 years old in Paarl. And it's decentralized screening. So we do it at ECDs, at primary schools, and Naziswa, our wonderful screener, and myself do that at the schools. Then also our heart is really to partner with the parents and the healthcare professionals to guide the child then through the referral pathway to the local clinic or to the ENT doctor or to the audiologist or the optometrist. So screening of vision and hearing that's what we do outside of COVID circumstances. Something we also used to do almost as an added extra is to do classroom training of the teachers and the learners regarding healthy ears and eyes for healthy learning. So we do the screening at the schools, vision and hearing, and then we would have a session with the teachers and with the kids, really just teach the teachers how to identify a child with a possible vision problem, with a possible hearing problem, and also teach the kids how to look after their eyes and their ears. Here's a little collage of our passion. So as you can see our equipment. It's a smartphone with earphones. And we really just love engaging with the kids in their school environment. And then COVID hit. So the challenges that we experienced is that all our screening services were halted from basically when the schools closed. Our referrals to healthcare providers were paused. All appointments were cancelled. And if you've worked with the Department of Health, there's always long waiting lists as it is for children to be helped. So it was really a tough time for us. Everything stopped. And then we started thinking creatively. And I think, I just want to almost like put a stamp over every slide that I'll be discussing with you guys that says all honor to Jesus, because Tasha and I will agree together that we were just on our knees saying, Lord, where to from here? And it's I want to honor Tasha also in this. She really spearheaded this COVID creativity, as we call it. And I think, let's talk from the beginning. So initially, our employees were just like everyone else does. We set up to work from home. We really focused on administration, patient follow-ups, getting some professional development done in Udemy courses. If you don't know what Udemy is, go Google it. It's awesome. Some personal development where we did some personality tests. It's free personality tests on the internet, and really just worked on our team dynamics. And we also felt to really assist in local relief work by fundraising and assisting in the distribution of food and winter clothes. But the question almost remained for us, like, how can we keep making an impact in our community in line with our vision? And from prayer, we got the answer, what do you have in your hands? And what resources do we still have available? And what we saw is we still have team members, and we still have our screening smartphones, and we have contacts at schools, and we have training resources. So from there, the EARS training program was born. Now what that is, it's a low-tech WhatsApp-based training program for ECD staff members, so for the principal or the teachers or the assistants, and it consists of 4 WhatsApp voice notes of approximately 3 minutes each. These voice notes have been, or the content of the voice notes have been put together by a group of audiologists, and also us as community workers have also given our input. And then we've also developed a supporting training image that goes along with each voice note. So these are sent out over 4 days. It keeps the teacher busy for about 5 minutes. And then at the end of the 4 days, the teacher has then completed their training. We're available for any questions that the teachers might have, any problems, any difficulties with technology or with understanding the content. They can contact us at any time. And And the goal was really to keep equipping teachers to play an active role in the identification and support of children with hearing difficulties. That is what we were going for. We really wanted to keep supporting teachers and really just build into their lives also during this time where many of them are sitting at home waiting for the schools to open again. We feel strongly that impact is only impact if it can be measured. So we measure the impact by asking the teachers to complete a pre and post training questionnaire. And the interpretation of the data is then done by our friends at the University of Pretoria. So collaboration, we've just also seen, as all of us have seen, collaboration is just so key during this time. The trained teachers at the end of the day then will be able to help identify high-risk children. So when we return to schools to do screening again, they will help us so that we can just do the screening of the high-risk children. So the whole training program is really looking forward towards when we are able to go back to schools and resume our training. The training, just a few notes, the training is voluntary, it is free of charge. All participants who complete the training are then entered into a lucky draw. And what we need from the participant is they just need to have access to WhatsApp and they have to have their own data. So we find that is quite a challenge at times, but we're also flexible. If a teacher says to us, no, we don't have WhatsApp data now, I'll have it at the end of the month, we just schedule them for later. So to date, approximately 70 individuals in Bokweni have participated in the training, and we must say they really do it with great enthusiasm. And this is just an example of one of the images that we send out with the voice note. It's lovely that teachers also have this then on their phones, so they can also refer back to the information that they have received. Yeah, so I think here it's really getting to the heart of what we've learned. Project specific, we were forced to stop and reevaluate our method and our impact. We had to look at what we have in our hands, think outside the box, and obviously with God's grace, we really started a hard process of creative thinking and making subsequent changes. And I say hard process because it wasn't easy. We had to really put fear aside and just think strategically. So we are now shifting our project focus from screening to empowering teachers. And we've almost seen that a new hybrid of our project model is emerging where we focus on the teachers' training and then do high-risk screening as well, hopefully when we can return. And also what's also awesome is we've seen that there are many new possibilities that have almost emerged from this, where we see we can have cross-border impact now, where we don't have to necessarily be at the school to be able to make an impact. This training we can do with someone in another province. The projects will also be easier to scale, and we can also add other aspects to the training. So we're really thinking about adding a vision aspect to the training as well. And then lastly, just something from our hearts in general before I finish, just we really had to learn to adapt and see that the only constant in our lives is change. We've really just focused on increasing check-ins with staff members, not to micromanage, but to really support them on a professional and a personal level. And we realize that our employees really are our organization's greatest asset. As Ian said just now, really to stay connected and vulnerable in this time, to share highs and lows, because we're in such a emotionally loaded context as NGOs. It's really important to keep that connection and to stay vulnerable and share with each other. And then lastly, to share messages of inspiration and pray. And yeah, we're stronger than we think. So that's us. Thank you so much.
Awesome, Nicole. Thank you so much for sharing and also for all the kind words. Much appreciated. Well done. Next up, we've got Gerrit Laning from Community Keepers. So Gerrit, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Ivan. So We work in schools, and when schools were closed down, we apparently did not have a home anymore. And outside, the big bad wolf of COVID-19 was howling. What to do? The story of the three little pigs for us is therefore a great analogy for what happened next. And although you guys can probably see that there are some resemblances between myself and the piglets, most notably my well-roundedness, we need to be very careful when we speak about this story, not to draw too many parallels or conclusions. But let me start by saying that I think the story of the three little pigs is actually a lot of nonsense. Anybody with some knowledge of building knows that you need to start with the foundation. And this story speaks nothing of the foundation. That is where we started as an organization when COVID-19 hit. Non-negotiables underpinning our actions were that God is still in control. If that was and is not true, we might as well close shop, really. Then, when working with our clients, we would often focus on an I can attitude for them to overcome adversity. And for us, it became very, very important to actually practice what we preach, which means that we had to say to ourselves that we can and we could. People in our organization, in the work we do, are extremely important. Therefore, we had to also then consider the needs and the interests of our clients, our staff, and our funders. And all of you are in the same boat as we are, and you know that this is an extremely difficult juggling act. Then speaking of the best interest of the child, that's a tricky one for us. We believe that to be extremely important, but it's difficult. So let me give you one example. Although we could claim to be an essential service even under level 5 lockdown, we decided that the health and safety of our clients, our kids, and our own staff are for us of paramount importance. And therefore, we decided to rather work remotely until fairly recently. And of course, out of that was born a whole bunch of innovations, a whole bunch of interventions, most notably that we turned from individual counseling face-to-face to a telephonic approach, and that we also started distributing a whole bunch of digital content. So we also wanted to continue serving our clients in the best possible way. And in that way, figuring out how to do telephonic check-ins for us was quite important. And we spent inordinate amounts of time actually researching the best practices. And out of that, we drew up a fairly comprehensive operating manual for our staff, which we think is actually standard, specific, and of a good quality. Last one, mandate. Making sure we are still doing what we're mandated to do. What we're mandated to do is protecting children and offering psychosocial support. And of course, that then excluded us from becoming an organization procuring and distributing, for instance, food. But it did not exclude us from helping our clients access these services.
Gerrit, I think I have to differ from you in some sense. The foundation is important and the building as a structure to protect the piglets, but for community keepers, people have always weighed much heavier. We needed to centralize planning. Schools were closed and we couldn't depend on very good structures that we had in place as an organization. We set up a very detailed project plan, concentrating on the main areas which we wanted to focus on, outlining all the tasks that we wanted to have completed with very specific timelines of the things that we needed to have done. We also took a directive approach, and contrary to the way that we usually operate, where collaboration and joint decision making is very important, we knew that the situation called for a different approach. Each decision was time sensitive, and people needed guidance in order to make sure that the organization continues reaching people. Keeping the focus on what the need is was the most important thing that we focused on throughout the whole process. In order to understand exactly what the need was, we did surveys and asked for constant feedback from people, which enabled us to plan effectively and to make sure that tasks are executed. We decided and knew that we would need to communicate frequently and discuss things. So we immediately set up a lot more meetings because we knew that we would need to test things and that there would need to be a constant feedback loop. We also agreed that we would need to be flexible and that there would need to be room for error because all of this was very new. We looked at existing staff structures and we involved focus groups and assigned tasks to them as we outlined in our project plan. And tasks were then filtered to them with very specific timelines of when things needed to be completed for distribution. We also needed to calm people down. So we assigned from the beginning specific people to keep staff motivated, to send messages of encouragement, and we gave a lot of guidance to make sure that we minimize the feeling of being of things being out of control. From the start, we also agreed that we don't only want to focus on now. We spoke about the things that we wanted to have ready when all of this is over, and we allocated time to get these things done. And we also have a lot of sessions planned with our staff to talk about what we've learned, how we can adapt, and what the things are that we want to carry on doing.
Really. And as always, your operations manager is always right if you guys ever wondered about it. Next slide. What the heck is Humpty Dumpty suddenly doing in our story? Well, to be quite honest, I think that is what sometimes, or that's what we sometimes do when we measure the effectivity or success of our programs. Humpty cannot be a benchmark in a story about the three little pigs. So for us, it's of the utmost importance to know what you want to measure. I want to give you guys one example. For individual therapy, which for us is a long-term process with long-term outcomes, we have, as community keepers, a rigorous set of monitoring and evaluation to show this progress and the ultimate outcomes. Now, during COVID, individual therapy for us was replaced by telephonic check-ins, and they are just not comparable. The purpose of telephonic interventions for us was to serve, and still is, to serve as a safety check, screening, emotional support, a little bit of we are here, are you okay? And of course, that's totally different from the outcomes that we reach with individual therapy. But still, if you then look at it in a qualitative way and with the qualitative feedback we got, we think that we actually did well. If you, for instance, hear a client commenting or see if you hear them commenting that CK has taught me it is good to ask for help, and a parent expressing their gratitude for a call mate, saying that it showed somebody cared, that you can measure. In concluding this conversation, we've learned a number of things and we're still learning, but I think I want to leave you with these thoughts. First of all, be brave. allow yourself to make mistakes, and more importantly, learn from them. For us, it worked like a charm. The mere fact that you can take stress of not knowing whether something is going to succeed, but seeing it as an experiment, seeing it as something that you can do and then just learn from it. As one of my previous colleagues said, collaboration is king. Something that we're learning, that we are, that we've learned, and that we are still learning. It's so important, and I think us as an NGO world, that's what's going to take us through COVID. Personally, as an organization, we Marilee said something about it, but we've learned to take successful aspects further. We're developing the great things. Today, we've got a massive celebration with our team to say, you've done well. And I think as organizations, we need to tell our colleagues, tell our staff, tell the people on the ground that they've done well. And then something that came up for us, a little bit of a mantra, was, what else? You gave people the opportunity to be creative, to innovate. And for us, it became the what else. What else are we as an organization achieving, and in what ways? Thank you so much for listening. Of course, we are community keepers, and we love the three little pigs.
Thank you very much, Gerrit, and also Marilee. We really appreciate it. It felt like I know you're trying to do the long-term therapy sessions, but it felt like a quick short-term one, so thank you for that. I remember the first time I was in one of your classrooms, I always started to play, and at some point received a bit of therapy, so thank you so much, appreciate that. Guys, we have 3 speakers left, then we will take a quick comfort break, but next up is Tim Tucker from The Message.
Good morning, everyone. Good to be with you. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully you can see that. Great to be with you. And thanks to the speakers who've already gone. I'll try and add a perspective that we've got. The Message Trust, we work with youth at risk across Cape Town. We were in Drakenstein Prison, which is our main connection with Valcare, but we work across Cape Town from the southern suburbs throughout the city, and seek to provide an environment for young people to flourish in faith and life and to become transformational leaders. A month before lockdown, we had our annual vision night. We had 800 people present at, do you remember those days? At Every Nation Church, with flashing lights and loud bands and all the trimmings. And then I get up and tell our 3-year vision of all the events and things we're going to do in schools and prisons across the city. And then COVID hit a month later, and I was left on my knees saying, Lord, what next? How's this going to take us forward? And I think what I want to do is just share, I'm going to share 3 things that I think we've learned during this last 6 months that have helped shape us as a ministry and as an organization during this time. The first thing, if I can get this to move forward, is not to panic. I think in those early phase of COVID-19, there was a lot of knee-jerk reactions, obviously a lot of panic. And I think we quickly realized that we couldn't answer all the questions that we had. There was things happening that were beyond our control, but we had to put our trust in the one who was ultimately in control. And that if we as leaders panicked within the organization, that would just destabilize everything. So we spent some time in intentional reflective prayer. And I think as a ministry for us, it was really important to discern what God was saying to us and how he was going to work in and through us as a ministry, and to hear from him. And whereas it would have been easy to try and just make things work, to try and push everything online, to do all of these sorts of things, we actually were able to take a couple of weeks out over Easter. And for me, this was also important. I think we recognized, I used a word around the time a lot, saying there's this kind of corporate sense, a great British word of discombobulation. So if, for you, who English is not your first language, there's a great English word. It means everything's out of sync. Everything just feels all over the place. We were discombobulated, and we need to find a place of bringing all that in and get centered in Christ again. And he spoke to us, and one scripture he really spoke to us from was Isaiah 26, verse 3 and 4. It says this: "You will keep in perfect and constant peace the one whose mind is steadfast, that is committed and focused on you in both inclination and character, because he trusts and takes refuge in you with hope and confident expectation." And things like that, God really spoke to us in. At the same time, I wrote some of my own thoughts. I'm going to share a link afterwards to a free ebook that I wrote called Facing the Future We Didn't Choose, that kind of said that we're navigating a time of grief and loss, and we need to allow God to speak into that grief and loss. So we did that individually, collectively as an organization, and within our spheres of influence. The second thing out of that time of reflective prayer was we were able to focus on our priorities and allow God to speak into what our priorities were in this season. I think we began to move the focus from the things that we couldn't do to the things that we could do with excellence, that were in line with our vision and mission. I think one of the most overused words during this period has been the word pivot. I don't think we pivoted as an organization. I think we prioritized. We found that we could actually invest more deeply into certain things where we could add tremendous value during this season. And God brought certain things into sharp focus that were in line with our vision and mission. And one of those is a principle that we've always had as a mission about we need to go deep. The transformation of a life or transformation of a community requires deep involvement. So even in our seeking to create, to be involved in relief in some of the communities we're involved in, we're entering into deep partnership with a handful of churches to say, how can we support you through this time and this period? Our academy course, where we have students who are now having to learn to work from home. We went deep in our relationships with our academy students as things began to open up again, and we could get involved with ex-offenders like we've always done. We took smaller numbers of ex-offenders, but went deep into their lives, providing pathways of opportunity for them. And the picture on the bottom left is of a group in Nyanga that are part of our Nyanga hub, and one of the most violent communities, as we know. And our leader in Nyanga went deep with a handful of young men, investing in them as transformational leaders, discipling them, providing them with educational support, and helping run one of our courses with them. And this was really the evidence of the fruit of what happened, where Tandile said, as he went through the course, the book, he helped me to know who I really am and reminded me that Jesus Christ is our great model, that a Christ-centered servant leader seeks to serve first. My friends and I in the leadership program organized an event on Mandela Day. We served other young people with blankets, food, vouchers, and masks. And I also had the opportunity to share the word of God with them, to encourage them. And now I've started writing a book. And that for me is the ripple effect of going in deep with Tandili. They are the best able then to serve people within their community. So reflective prayer, focusing on our priorities. And then the third thing was really investing into our partnerships. This has already been mentioned. We invested, and I think the critical thing in terms of investing into our partnerships was communication, to consistently communicate what God was doing amongst us, both our struggles, our difficulties, our challenges, but also the opportunities. So through conversations, through WhatsApp, through video posts, we were able to effectively come alongside our partners and learn together through this process. But also, I think a surprising thing for me, I mean, I think those things probably don't surprise you, but one of the things that surprised me is new partnerships that has emerged. As we focused on priorities, we've actually recognized some gaps and some new opportunities. And so have been able to come along new partners who can help us fill those gaps. One of those has been a group of my team have just been in Port Elizabeth, learning from the Red Band Barista Academy in Port Elizabeth, whereas now we're hoping over the next few months to start the first dedicated Barista Academy for ex-offenders here in Cape Town. And Lord willing, being able to move that back also into Drakenstein Prison in due course as well. But other new partnerships have emerged, as again, I think many of you said, that we're stronger together. So thanks for listening. Those are just some of the three of the main areas or things we've been learning. This morning I was inspired to write this up as a blog post. I'll put that link in the chat so you can read a bit deeper some of the things that I put, and I'll put the link into that free ebook if you'd like to get hold of that as well. But thanks to Valcare. We love your support and partnership as well.
Awesome, Tim. Thank you so much for all the encouraging words. Everybody's now salivating after your last slide of coffee, so thank you for that. You just need to bear with us for about 20 more minutes, then we'll take a break. Thank you very much, Tim. Next up is the ladies from ITSA. So it's going to be Marieke Steyn and Melissa van der Merwe.
Thanks, guys. Hello, everyone. Let's share. Sorry, I just want to make sure. There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm Marieke from ITSA. In a nutshell, we are in the Dwars River Valley in Kylmore, and we have a group of 230 kids that we are keeping in our hands and walking a journey with in the form of a after-school program. And yeah, it's in our 7th year, and we hold on to our pillars of taking them in as early as possible, walking with them from ages 5 to 18, strongly involving the parents, sharing and presenting holistic programs, education, sports, arts, culture, psychosocial, and obviously their faith journey. And it's been a privilege for us to have had those kids with us for 7 years. Yeah, and then COVID also hit, and yeah, thank you just for the previous presenters. We've got many similar points, but it's good to maybe sometimes repeat some of that, then we know that we experience things similarly. But over to Melissa, just for some of the things we've done.
Yeah, so some of our adjustments during COVID, so as you see it in front of you now, it's, I think, how chronologically, how we kind of adapted and had to adjust. So I think when it struck the immediate need and the shock, and there was this idea of scarcity of food. So we did have a little bit of food distribution, and then as it developed, our psychosocial support leg opened up. Like Marieke mentioned, a part of our vision and mission is really to support our kids in a holistic way. And we just knew that we wanted to support them at home, not only with food or psychosocial support, but as well as education, physical, faith-based support as we could via WhatsApp, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. As soon as we were able to open up our centrums, we didn't have our kids back yet, but we knew we were going to take the time just to do some staff development and just work with our team and make sure our team's feeling good and happy. And then lastly, we thought we had our kids back, and then the schools closed again. And so we were privileged in this time that just passed to also have a winter school holiday program, which enabled us to let our kids have some sort of a school day during COVID. So maybe just some practical tips and lessons learned. We really felt, and to encourage you also to stay true to your core vision and who you are, and to really be consistent with that. We did do some food distribution because we felt like there was a need at that point, but we knew that that wasn't going to be what we spend most of our time and our energy on. We wanted to stick with our core vision. We wanted to support them in all the different spheres that we could at home, and to be really consistent with that. Secondly, to always put relationships first. So even when we did do some food parcels, we always felt doing it in relation with our families, being open in conversation, protecting their dignity and their trust. We invited families one by one to rather come and get some stuff, just to give us the opportunity for engagement and just to keep that, to build on that relationship and to keep it strong. Then to not underestimate the community where we work in and where you work in terms of resilience. It was inspiring to see how they were just resilient in this time, and the creative ideas that came forward. So as part of our WhatsApp initiative, as we sent things out, we thought we were going to test their engagement of some of the lessons that we had sent, and we had this competition that on a weekly basis we'll give you a challenge and you need to send us a video of how your family's been doing or does this challenge, and there's a prize. And it was just incredible to see some of the creative videos itself that came back, and just how they responded in that. And just the courage it took some of them to come forward in terms of saying, we need help, we're struggling with this, how can you partner with us? And then maybe also to really identify the barriers for realistic engagement. As an example, again, we had this WhatsApp initiative, and we decided, because we've got this strong WhatsApp communication group, let's do things in that way. And after some feedback from the community, we realized data was expensive and parents just couldn't keep up with some of the videos that we were sending. And so we decided to put up a Wi-Fi hotspot for parents to go and actually download some of the videos, just to show them that we are responsive to their needs, and just to be open to changing as we see there are some barriers. How can we break down some of those barriers just to ensure that we stay responsive to our kids and our community.
Yeah, and like most of you said in the previous presentations, is that we cannot be everything to everyone, and there is sometimes spaces where you just know now you can only focus on God. Pray and know that He will not leave us and forsake us. And I think for us on a spiritual level, we just realized that we can only plan and do as much as we can, and then the rest we leave over to God. So it was really a faith journey, and depending and trusting, really trusting that God can do this, and this is His project and His community, and He will protect and guide and heal. And it was, I think, for most of us personally, quite a deep spiritual journey. And it's okay to be vulnerable and to be weak at times. So that was good for us to experience together. And then, don't leave your team behind. We realized in this time, and like the previous guest also said, that your team is so important. And we, in this time, had to move from being very productive and very quantitative and, always have lists of things to do and lots of staff meetings, really to pause and say, let's focus on the team role, let's focus on the team's emotional well-being. This is traumatic for everyone, and I think that has really built us as a team, moved us together and closer to each other. And maybe in quantitatively the productivity may seem a little bit lower or slower, but we know that as a team we've really grown together, and we know the fruit will come later. But just as a tip to pause a little bit with your team and look after them in this time. And then we also celebrate being brave and courageous, and sometimes speak out the truth, even if it's against what's in the media, against what's in the social media, against what's in the community on the street level. You speak the truth. In the sense of, for us, it was to get your kids back to school, get them in a safe environment rather than to let them in the streets, play in the streets. And even though it was frowned upon, we at some stages had to stand up and say, this is the truth and this is what we stand for. It really helped us a lot to just stay true to that. Yeah, and I think to wrap up, we just want to show a small little visual, a little video, just to salute our community and the response they had in this time to our challenges that we've asked them to send in every week.
pasando mo, está pasando, y vayan a mi mamá para mi mamá, papá, para hablar con my best kid.
Awesome, ladies. Thank you. Thank you so much. The video is awesome. Really enjoyed that a lot. Thank you very much for sharing and just being so inspirational. We really appreciate that. All right, guys, last but absolutely not least, Salome, it's terrible that they scheduled you to talk last. I hope the nerves is still okay. After Salome Langman from Mars from Wellington, we'll take a quick break. But Salome, thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Last but not least, I'm going to share my screen with you now, but I first just want to talk just about who we are and what we do. So my name is Salome Langman. I'm operations at Mars for Wellington. I started last year, and before COVID, we started re-strategizing our whole program, and then COVID hit. So we had a lot of things that we wanted to put into place that came to a halt. But I'm just quickly going to share my screen with you and tell you what we used to do, and then talk about further about what we are planning for the future. Okay, can just hold on. Great, can you see my screen? Good. Okay, so Mars for Wellington, we have quite a couple of programs that we run, and we work with very vulnerable women and children in the area of New Rest and in Wellington area, Carterville, Igoli. As you can see here, our children's ministry, we have about 149 children that we service with basic needs that some of our parents can't really give to our children. Most of our parents in our programs struggle really financially to put children into ECD centers or afford to put them in ECD centers. So that is the ministry that we run twice a week, where we give 2 healthy meals a day. And then we started with our early childhood development program 3 times a week, which we do with about 60 children, where we get our children school ready to go to grade R. And we've got our Avoda program where we have about 13 disabled adults who also come to our programs. And then we have our community involvement program. We have about 60 women in the community that help us out with our children's ministry. It's important for us that people in the community invest back into the community. So these women give their time. We call them Tani Mamas. So they are a mama for the children. So yeah, that is basically what we did. Some challenges that we really faced is that all programs came to an absolute halt. We couldn't get to our children. We couldn't serve our children food, and we've known from previous experience, even in school holidays, if our children don't get food from us, their body weight dropped more than 3 to 4%. Now that is quite a lot when you look at a 3 to 6 year old. And so the challenges that we faced was that our children is not going to get food, and there's going to be quite a lot of malnourishment. So, and as well, in this time, a lot of our parents or people in the community used much needed SASSA money and much needed resources to actually purchase illegal substances. And that was quite a concern for us, really. I drove in the communities. I was an essential service provider, and just how expensive stuff was that people bought, and then the children in the street were really not getting the basic needs that they needed. So yeah, so that was one of the struggles that we had in the first lockdown. Then what we decided, I'm just going to share the next screen. We started with a program for helping without hurting. So spread this kindness instead. Basically, we couldn't be a soup kitchen. We couldn't open and make food for children. We couldn't be with them. So we partnered with Valcare and Inseba and quite a lot of other private donors, and we partnered with Pick and Pay and ShopRite to give vouchers to children, to the families of children, our children, which was very nice because we didn't have contact directly with our children or with the parents to curb the spread. The parents could go to Pick and Pay with their IDs and actually pick up food vouchers. And then also it was really amazing that some of the Pick and Pay and ShopRite people, they coached the parents what to buy and not to buy non-essential goods, which was really really amazing. And then the next slide, Nicole, I was thinking of you when you said with what you have in your hand. So God has really spoke to us about what you have in your hand. What fish and bread do you have in your hand that you can multiply? And what we had in our hand was relationships, was people that we know, people in the community that used to work quite a lot with us. So we started this project, What is in Your Hand? In that time, we could really partner with the agricultural community in Wellington and also broader. I'm talking Citrusdal series. We partnered with NGOs in Brackenfell and quite a lot of areas who had a lot of one thing, and we had a lot of another things, so we started to trade. So we traded with fruit and vegetables to see if we once had a donation of 4 tons of nectarines. So we traded 2 tons for apples. And in this time, we could actually take what farmers and other people had in their hands, and then we adopted some private soup kitchens and the local schools in the community. So we realized that a 300 Rand voucher in a family of 28 people, where 21 people live on one property, is not sufficient. We really saw that the need in the community was really bad, with especially towards food and so we took hands with 4 local schools. So whatever we had in our hand, we could distribute to them. So twice a week, schools could come to us and collect fresh produce to give out to the children that came to the schools. And in this time, which was amazing for us, is that schools did not only give to their own children, they actually serviced the whole community, which was very inspiring, I think. And then the 5 private soup kitchens, that was, we specifically looked at them because they were in the streets, in the community where our children would be. Usually we would have 4 lighthouses. So a lighthouse is a house in the communities where one of our Tani mamas would prepare food and the children will come to her. Unfortunately, in the lockdown, we couldn't do it because most of our Tani mamas are at risk. They are over 65 or just at risk of COVID. So we couldn't use our lighthouses. So it was amazing to take hands with the schools. And as well, in this, we really received so much that we could take hands with retirement homes. We took hands with a lot of other NGOs and a lot of other people working in the community to just redistribute. And then again, what was amazing about this project, What is in Your Hand, is whatever they had, they could sew back, which I think really worked well. So those are what we did. So what we are doing now, our children our parents are not really up to standard of what to do with a 3-year-old at home. So we started with activity packs. Which is part of our Amazing Brains program. So most of our activity packs are age appropriate. It's according to developmental areas. So when we, as you can see here, as we distribute food parcels to our children, we also distribute these activity packs once a month. And then we started a WhatsApp groups for our parents to send us back some feedback. They can communicate to us. With level 3 and 2 lockdown now, we can do home visits again. So we send out our ECD teachers and our field workers to visit parents and ask them, obviously with the correct PPE and distancing and all of that, what is their need? I think, and that is something that what we have learned out of this situation is just to reevaluate what the real need in the community is. Really to look at what you are doing and does it make a real impact? So I just quickly want to check here. So positives that we've taken out of this situation was to, with everything you do, and I think all of you have mentioned it as well, is to keep on spreading a message of hope. A lot of people in the communities, as we drive there, as we do visits, there's a hopelessness in the community where we work. And to keep on spreading a message of hope. So continually with SMSs, with every food parcel we send out, we spread a message of hope through scriptures. And I think what positive things that we have done is to really take a step back and look at what other people are doing, use resources well, do not reinvent the wheel. Just take the wheel that's reinvented and choose the road that you're going to travel on. And just look, we had to really go back to the drawing board and look at our M&Es and our outcomes. What change do we really want to see in the community? So we started with how can we really start to involve parents more in the lives of the children. And now with the activity packs, we can really see that parents want to be involved and they are more involved. And encouragement that I want to share with you is just Tim also mentioned the scripture is to just go back to the Word of God and just to hold on to what he says. And when the storms come and you have to readapt, and today you decide to do this, tomorrow it changes, just to know that there's one constant, and that constant is God. And I want to leave you with a scripture which Tim already also mentioned. Just to keep in perfect peace all who trust in him, and all those thoughts are fixed only on you. So I want to leave you with that, and just thank you for this opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Salome. I don't think you need to be nervous about speaking English ever again. That was really well done. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Guys, okay, we're going to go on a quick body break. So I see the time is now 12:30, so we'll allow for a 10-minute body break. So please return at 12, if that would be okay. Then we'll have our breakout rooms, and then we will take it from there. But you can quickly fix yourself a coffee, and we'll see each other in 10 minutes. All right. I think if we can now maybe just go through each group, just to give a quick feedback on what we've learned. I really want to mean this when I say quick, otherwise we're going to have to struggle with time. So please, literally 2 minutes. If the facilitators can just give us some feedback. So can we start with you, please, Nicole?
Hi. It was just such an inspirational session. I think the question that I put out there was, what were your challenges and how did you adapt? We went around the circle, and it was awesome to see just how everyone, we didn't spend a lot of time focusing on the challenges. Everyone automatically just went into how their organizations pulled together. Words stood out like how we couldn't believe how quickly we could adapt. Leonie mentioned something interesting. She said, we got done in a week what you would usually take a year. Just people were starting to strategize in ways that would still support their vision. They saw how they could decentralize their work from where it was center-based to community-based, and how well that works. I think what also came out is that technology in our organizations really played a big role. Everyone spoke about how WhatsApp helped them, and how technology is really such an asset. I think we're thankful that we're living in the 21st century. And then also how communication in our organizations has improved, because everyone is checking in more actively and more regularly, even if it is technologically based. Communication has improved. Also how employees and clients together have been forced out of their comfort zones, but how that has created growth. So parents suddenly have to be teachers, but that creates a connection with their child. Employees suddenly have to help with food distribution, which is not their core function at the organization, but it gave them just a new insight into the community. So yeah, it was just a session of hope. I think we could have spoken for 20 more minutes, but we just shared hope, and I'm so thankful. It was really awesome. So to see that there's many words coming out that are just so inspiring, coming from all the different organizations.
Wonderful, Nicole. Thank you very much. I think we all share that sentiment and a strong theme of hope. So that's amazing. Gerard from Community Keepers, your group.
Ivan, thank you. Yes, indeed. We managed to coerce Ilani actually to speak on our behalf. So she'll be giving the feedback.
Perfect.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I was coerced completely. Anyways, so from our session, it really came out that communication is key. And we've always learned this through the years, and we know this. It's a basic principle. But we really spoke about how communication fundamentally changed in this period, and how we've learned that it's important to make eye contact now, because you can't have social interaction and you can't have physical contact, and how it's so difficult to communicate love and affection and acceptance and the absence of rejection through words only. It's really a challenge. And how to address the underlying uncertainty and the underlying fears in these emotional times. So it's almost like you have a slower kind of approach to people, because you're contemplating that there might be some uncertainty, there might be some fear underlying, there might be some panic. So you think it through a little bit more. We spoke a little bit about how moms were, the ask just got a lot more in terms of working from home, having to juggle the kids, having to do schoolwork, all these, these extras, and what it took. And it's like Nicole said, I can't remember if it was Mars, I can't remember, but how you're much stronger than you actually think you are, and how to cope with all of that. So in a nutshell, I would say a lot about the communication and a lot about prioritizing and how we survived all of that.
Brilliant. Lani, thank you so much. Guys, from the message, we've asked Tasha to give us some feedback. Tim, unfortunately, had to rush off and drive to another meeting. But Tasha, you've got the floor.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, we had a lovely discussion. I think we didn't even get to all the points where we're supposed to discuss, but two interesting things that stood out was from all the leadership, the feeling that, you know, even though it was lockdown and for many people a time of slowdown, it was for the leaderships of all the various organizations a time of pushing and, you know, actually a little bit more on your shoulders and just had to continue despite changing situations. So I think just in general, a feel of the leaderships being a little bit exhausted and tired. And so we just also value your message there at the beginning, Ivan, just to make it a priority to rest and also look after ourselves. And then something interesting that also stood out for us was that not in any of the presentations we really saw any mention of money, right? And at the beginning, all of the NGOs, I'm sure you've all felt the same, were challenged with, you know, what are we going to do in terms of fundraising and funding and, you know, and so we just also honored God that just provided in new ways. And, you know, when we are working in his purpose, that he will provide. And yeah, so that was actually so amazing that was not like the major challenge on everybody's slides, right? So yeah, it was just also something special that we saw, and it's also a thing that can give us hope in future that, yeah, when we're in his purpose, he will provide.
Awesome. Very nice to hear that. Sounds like a really good conversation. I will get into trouble when I say the Aitsa Tannies, but Marikia and Melissa, please, if you can give us some. You see, I can do these types of jokes when we're not face to face.
And at least we're not piglets. You're not calling us piglets, so we'll take Tannies. That's fine. Sorry, Gerrit. Melissa will just summarize one or two of the points.
Yeah. So I think maybe just to start at some of the challenges, I think there's still a lot of fear and stigma around meeting in purpose, social distancing, transport, beneficiaries not being able to get to some centralized places. But I think that what it just brought forth was just better planning for participants in terms of trying to either walk or get some private transport, etc. And then I think the broader feedback, just what came out as great innovative changes was just the creativity within all the different beneficiaries, how they really used innovative ways to kind of adapt into the social distancing, like soup kitchens that were always soup kitchens but needed to adapt in this new COVID regulations. Just some of the creativity and interactions that broke up in those spaces. And we also spent quite a lot of time on technology and WhatsApp and how that's actually just broken up new opportunities for organizations. Not just data being what was a really interesting or good one that came out, is also not having data, but Bluetooth being free and being able to actually just share some of the content and training over Bluetooth. And just the creativity of teams on making videos and the possibility of, you know, using online platforms and videos and WhatsApps as a long-term kind of successful or win, a gift that came from this opportunity or from COVID that they take forward.
Now, if I can add to that, there was the one organization that said at the end, her team says that they don't want to return to how it was before lockdown. So in many ways, so that's quite special to know that maybe there's a lot of practices that we now started that is actually more effective and the scope is better. So that was positive.
Yeah, and that's it.
Brilliant. Thank you, ladies. Yes, I read somewhere that COVID forced us into the fourth industrial revolution. So suddenly pastors and leaders and people that's not so technologically gifted has immediately started using Zoom and videos and all those sorts of things. So yeah, that's amazing. All right, again, last but not least, Salome van Maas.
Hi everybody. Yeah, we actually had a good social chat, but also it was good to see Marlies mentioned that the target group that they they didn't actually just start working with a target group. They had to refocus at working at the people around them, like the parents, how to engage parents more, especially when you work with children, how to engage parents more. And also what one of the pastors mentioned was just honoring, and Ivan also said that there's a lot of stigma in the community about COVID, and a lot of people who don't adhere to rules. Soos wat die pastoor gesê het, hulle is stout. Die mense in die gemeenskap is stout. So sticking to your principles, sticking to the rules that government has placed there, despite of if they're right or wrong. It goes all back to Romans 13, where God says that we have to honor authority. That stood out in our thing. I think, yeah, that was about it that I can say was that stood out for me in our feedback session.
Brilliant. Guys, we have got, I think, about 5 or so minutes left. I just quickly want to give some feedback from Valcare's perspective. I think we've touched so many things, and I really just want to thank everybody for joining the call. Sometimes we feel disconnected. I remember at the end of last year, we did a bit of a conversation around how do we improve our network even more. And I think Zoom has actually helped that a bit on. Hopefully it'll be a bit better in future. So thank you so much for joining. From a Valcare perspective, I think we've also learned to have a lot more grace with each other. We learned that, some of our staff members have got children at home, which makes it obviously a lot more complex for somebody that doesn't have children at home. We've realized that, some individuals might have spouses that have lost their jobs, etc., etc. So there are so many dynamics going on in the private lives of our staff. And I really want to encourage you guys as well, for your teammates and your colleagues, to just have more grace than you would usually have. I know nonprofits usually don't struggle with this, but I think in this time we can always use a bit more of that. And then I wrote down to count on one another, but then I also wrote that to put your hand up. And I think in our team, I've been just so inspired about the constant catching of balls that have, been dropped, and they're just having almost like this rolling machine of people putting up their hand and stepping forward and trying to find solutions. And I think that's important. And to be honest with yourself, and like I mentioned at the beginning, to be vulnerable and say, look, I can't do this right now, and then try and support each other in that. And then everybody said it, and I actually wrote it down earlier, but everybody said it, that God is still in control. And I think that's an important message for us to know, is that God is still in control. He is still sovereign. He is still God. And I think that's an important message for me, especially during this time, that it doesn't really matter what is happening around us and even next to us, but He's still in control and He's still God. Brendan sent me a message saying that I should ask you guys to continue the discussion. And I actually want to share with you that we've been dreaming about a shared office space for quite some time. And the idea is typically to have many organizations that are focused on impact and pretty much wanting to make the world a better place. So I'm speaking exactly to the right audience today. But we have, in principle, received approval from the board to take that to the next level. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks and months, we will be reaching out and having this conversation in a bit more depth. So we are very excited to share that with you. We believe that, and especially after COVID, that a physical sitting next to each other and touching and hugging, if Yolanda is still, where's Yolanda on the call, hugging, I think that is critical. And so I think it's for us, plants a bit of a seed of hope, and it's something for us to strive towards, to be closer to each other and to try and activate and enable change a bit more in depth. We need to take a photo, so everybody that's still offline, and it's now the time to just freshen up your hairstyle. So we can just quickly take a screenshot. Leonie, I assume you're on it. Now, this is the uncomfortable part. If you have not combed your hair, you'll you'll leave the call. It's okay, don't worry. Awesome. We got it? All right, cool. And then lastly, we asked you guys to do the Jerusalem dance. And so we had our super talented friend Corey stitch it together for us. He did it late last night, so it's not as super impressive as the editing job done by Nike, but I still think it's quite a good job. So I'm going to quickly share the video with you. And I was very excited to see that that Aitza is part of the video, because clearly in the previous video we could see that they are quite good dancers. So we hope you enjoy it.
Jerusalema ikhaya lami, ilondoloze uhambe nami, zungangishilana. Jerusalema ikhaya lami, ilondoloze uhambe nami, zungangishilana. Dawo yami ayikholana, buso wami awukholana. Ilondoloze zuhambe nami, dawo yami ayikholana, buso wami awukholana. Ilondoloze dawo yami ayikholana, buso wami awukholana. Ilondoloze zuhambe nami, dawo yami ayikholana, buso wami awukholana. Ilondoloze zuhambe nami. Jerusalema ikhaya lami, ilondoloze uhambe nami, zungangishilana. Jerusalema ikhaya lami, ilondoloze uhambe nami, zungangishilana. Dawo yami ayikholana, buso wami awukholana. Ilondoloze zuhambe nami.
If you dance like me, it's better to switch the lights off for all the neighbors involved. Awesome, guys. It has been such a privilege to host you guys for today. I hope that you don't have much planned for the rest of the day, and hopefully you find some time to rest properly over the weekend. And yes, we'll keep in contact with you. Please let us know if there's anything specific we can pray for you guys, or if there's any other support that you guys need. We are there. So please reach out. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Feedback.
Thank you.
Oh, damn, I wrote that down. Yes, we will send out, we have to measure everything. So we will send out a feedback form Liesel will send it out, and then we will fill it in. So please, we appreciate that. Cool.
Ivan, sorry, just a question from my side. Will this recording be available? Because I would love
Absolutely.
to share it in the organization.
You are more than happy. Just take out the video part, but yes, we are happy to. Now you can have that, no problem. We'll make it available.
Thanks.
Not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry, Leonie, do you want to just show or tell everyone where they might find the video as well? So we'll send it out, but also on our website, there's all our other resources available under Member Hub.
Yes, if you go to Valcare's website, you'll see at the top of the page, there's a button that says Members Hub, and that is for you. And underneath that is resources. And underneath resources, you'll find all sorts of templates and PDFs if you haven't, if you don't know about it yet. And all the previous training presentations and videos we upload there. And this one will be available there next week.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.